Quite frankly, it's kind of unusual.
It's quite Franklin.
Got it. Quite Franklin.
All right, Rich. So you had an amazing fight career. Well, kind of, a little bit. Enough to make the UFC Hall of Fame, right?
Okay,
yeah. What people see, right, is a guy at 48 still in what some would argue peak physical shape.
Yeah.
How do you keep that fire going and that fire alive?
From a physique perspective, I think I'm in better shape. I look like I'm in better shape now than I did when I was competing.
Gotcha.
My body's going to take it's going to take on a different shape at this age because I'm not doing 20 hours of cardio every week now, right? Like I can lift. My body has proper time to recover.
You get roughly how many?
I mean, total training time in a week is between 7 and 9 hours typically, and of that, I don't know, three cardio hours. I mean, and that's not like three.
Quite different.
Yeah. It's much different than I was training, and so this is actually going to have an impact on your physique. I'll say this: that if I was trying to maintain peak physical condition, like my whole life, you can't. Even when I was training for a fight, like there's a goal, right? We were offered the contract, we signed the contract, we accept the fight, and then there's a goal to win the fight. Yep. Albeit that could be 8 weeks, 10 weeks, typically about 10 weeks into the future when you start your camp. And so I have 10 weeks of grind, and I know that after that fight, like that ends and I'm going to be able to take some time off. Now that time can come in the way of like sitting on the couch and eating bonbons, as you and I talked about before, right? But that's not my MO. That's not how I relax or whatever. My time off might be like, well, I'm going to get out of town and I'm going to, go chill on the beach or take surfing lessons or something that's out of my element that stimulates my brain, go for a hike in a foreign country or whatever it may be. But you can only maintain that grind for so long. My boxing coach, Rob Radford, he used to tell me like the human body, it's like a car battery. You can only get so much life out of it. And so the more you drive the car, the less time you get out of that battery. And it was so true because in my 20s, especially in my early 20s, before I have fought, when I was fighting as an amateur, when I was fighting as a lower level professional, all I wanted to do was train. That was it. And so from the last training session to the next training session, it's almost like I was just counting down the minutes to the next training session. And I was thinking about what I was going to do in the next training session. And it's really an unhealthy thing to do. You need to exercise some balance in the sense that if you want longevity out of this, you're going to end up burning out. Yeah. I think on the back end, I was able to maintain this fire and passion through my entire career such that by the time I retired, it was my mind where I was like, I've had enough of this rather than my body physically giving out on me. Right. And so that was really important, but make no mistake about it. If I was trying to maintain that level still, I wouldn't be able to do it. It would be impossible. So now I'm not really training for anything in particular. I go in the gym and I grind hard. Like my body is sore, muscles are sore, aching because I'm either in the gym lifting, grinding, or I'm going to I was in the gym earlier today and we were doing some bag work and mitt work and just the bouncing around, and I was sitting in my car for a ride a little while after, and then I get up and my legs like, whoa, like a little jello. But that's obviously off of a tough leg workout this week as well. So that's the whole thing, is like it's basically like learning your peaks and valleys. So at this point, one of the things I think that is difficult for someone who would be in my situation to maintain motivation is that I don't have anything I'm getting ready for. Like I don't compete as like, I'm not a competitive jiu-jitsu grappler. I don't have any kind of contest. I'm not trying to do bodybuilding shows, or I don't even think I have the physique for that anyway, but I don't have any kind of goal. I just enjoy doing what I'm doing. And this is a lifestyle that I've pretty much had ever since I started playing organized sports when I was in the 3rd grade. So I was 8 years old, and I've always thought of myself as an athlete since that time. And so I'll always be an athlete, even if I'm not getting paid to do what I do.
Right. Well, and I would say like, there's a lot of fighters that, I mean, the public knows, right? Like that have retired and not actually maintained any kind of shape.
I'll just say this. I'll interject real quick. Those are the same fighters that typically you see them get out of shape in between matches, right?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever paid that close attention.
Oh yeah, man. Like you see guys that'll run these camps, like 12 to 16 week camps, because they have to spend the first 4 weeks just getting in shape for their camp, so that then they can actually have a proper camp to prep, because they're in season and out of season. I've just always been an athlete, who never had an out of season ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Is there one driving force in your life that propels you forward to never stop?
I grew up in a family of big men. I was like the runt of my
Giants.
family. Yeah, right. And so my father was 6'4", 285 pounds when he was a younger man, and he looked like a retired football player. And he was the strongest guy that I knew. He was the strongest guy that every guy that knew him knew. Right. He was that guy. And I wanted to aspire to be like my father. Right. And so there's probably this feeling of, a bit of like, I'm chasing this thing that I haven't reached yet, which is kind of good. I talk about having an attitude of insatiability, and that's something that an athlete has. And I think it's a double-edged sword. You got to be careful about this. But for me, it was productive in a way that when I go into the gym and I train on a Monday or whatever day during the week I'm training, then I'm going in and I'm working these techniques, and I can, maybe I get better as the day goes on, but there's still this piece of me that's like, oh man, I got more work to do. Like I'm not perfect, and you can't get to, you're in the pursuit of perfection, or the pursuit of excellence, I should say. And so I'm always looking to better my skill level. I'm never satiated with what I have. And I think that is a big reason why, it's just like, I still got that fire in me, because I'm never satiated. I'm always looking, like, even when I look back at myself as an athlete, I'm looking at myself and saying, I can do better now than I could when I was in my, peak or prime at 32 or 33 years old. Like I can perform better now than I could then. And I'm always pushing to do that. And so I'm the person who's, getting on the treadmill. If I have to do a sprint routine or run a 5K, I want to run my 5K faster today than I did yesterday or than I did 10 years ago. And obviously the body, it slows down. It's just a natural age or a function of age, but still you can pursue that with this attitude of insatiability. And that's something that I have, and that's not something that you can just give a person necessarily. Yep. And so I don't personally need a goal to get ready for. Like, I don't need to have a show or a contest or something to keep me motivated, but I would recommend that for most people. If you're on a fitness journey and, do a Tough Mudder, for example, or a Spartan race, and try to turn in a better time than a colleague did, or a better time than you did the year before. Do a bodybuilding competition, sign up for jiu-jitsu lessons, do a competitive jiu-jitsu tournament, whatever it may be that will motivate you to do that and to maintain that fire.
Let me ask, with all that hunger, do you ever give yourself praise? Or maybe praise is the wrong word, but you know what I'm going with that?
Yeah. No, I'm really bad about that. And to give an example, when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, it was I said this, it was a difficult award for me to accept, because every other award, albeit a championship belt or even just a victory for that matter, that I accepted in my life prior to that, I actually had to do something to earn that at the time.
Makes sense.
The Hall of Fame award that I got was basically given to me based upon all my previous accomplishments. Like, I didn't have to do anything else to get it. And so there was this piece of me that was like, this is weird. Right. Yeah. Like, it's hard for me to just sit back and be like, oh yeah, well, my career was that good. We started the top of this off by you kind of picking on me with some keyboard warriors, but I am my worst critic. And this is one of the things that really made me successfully jump from, for example, fighting in small venues and bars as a lower level professional to jumping onto the big stage, because the lights and the crowds and none of that stuff ever got to me, because I knew that at the end of the day I was going to go home and the man in the mirror was the worst critic. Like, I don't care about the opinions of the haters or the keyboard warriors or any of those people. I have to face myself, and I'm 10 times harder on myself than anybody else I know. Even physically, people look at me and they're like, man, like I'm 48 years old, and they think like, you look good. And from the neck down, I still look like I'm 25. But when I look at myself in the mirror,
Don't look at the neck up.
yeah, exactly. 27 from the neck, maybe 29. Come on, I'll keep going. But no, but when I look at myself in the mirror, I'll find more things about me that, like, perhaps a little case of body dysmorphia, that I'll find more things about me that I don't like than I do like things that I want to fix. And that goes back to that attitude of insatiability. And this is where that can be a double-edged sword, particularly in this modern society where we live, man. You have all these celebrities and people see these snapshots of people's lives on social media. It's like the highlights of the best version of their life, right? And half that stuff probably isn't, it's not even accurate to begin with. Photos that are photoshopped and filtered and everything else. And it's like, that's the standard by which you're trying to live, or what you compare yourself to. It's just it's a tough world, especially for this younger generation.
And if you're using that for your fire, you're always going to be running.
The comparative analysis is the worst thing you can do. I think that anytime you're pursuing something in life and someone else's accomplishments or assets or whatever it is, if that becomes your goal in life, like, then you've already lost. I'm my worst competition, right? I'm competing against what I did yesterday. I'm going to be better today than I was then, or whatever that is. If my goal is to make more money, I'm going to make more money today than I did yesterday. I'm going to do better in the gym today than I did yesterday, whether that's reps or weight or whatever it is. It's like, I'm constantly comparing myself to a previous version of myself and looking for that constant improvement. Like, I almost never compare myself to anybody else. And if I catch myself doing that, I immediately correct myself. We talked about this on a previous podcast when you asked me about the Google searches and people, what was it? Searching the routines of some of the
morning successful
people, the highly successful people, what their morning routines are like.
Yep.
Right? When you do that, you're automatically comparing yourself to these other people, right? What ends up happening is, like, let's say I copy and paste like somebody does that and I pop up on the list and like, oh, this is Rich Franklin's morning routine. And then they try to do my morning routine. And I've previously spoken about my morning routine and my mind, body, soul thing. But it's like, if we got into the whole routine and how then I do a little bit of business and I go to the gym, and I'm pretty much at the gym the same time every single day. And so you say, okay, I'm going to do this routine. And so you try to do it tomorrow. Well, that's not your routine. That's my routine. So nobody can give you the routine, and nobody can give you the motivation. They can help you find, for example, and we talked about this before, they can help you find your why, which is really what motivates you to do the things. And then from there, you can figure out, okay, well, this is my why. So what do I need to do to accomplish this particular why, like this goal, like setting goals and all that. And then you have to set up a routine that is moving you towards that. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's you, like you are competing against yourself. And if you're trying to compete, like if you're searching and you're trying to compete against my routine or my goal or some other successful motivational speaker or athlete or whoever it may be, it's like, you've already lost the game.
It's all intrinsic, man.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Quite Franklin is providing this podcast as a public service, but it is neither a legal interpretation nor legal advice, nor a statement of Quite Franklin policy. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of that product or entity by Rich Franklin or Quite Franklin. The views expressed by guests on the podcast are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Views and opinions expressed by Quite Franklin employees or representatives are the views and opinions of the persons expressing them, and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Quite Franklin or any of its officials or principals. Nothing heard on this podcast at any time is medical advice or is intended as medical advice. The listener must always consult his or her personal physician or other qualified medical professional regarding any questions of a medical nature. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact our general counsel.